Welcome to UAT Game Studios Milestone Review Week 9. We've got 6 presenters today, and we're going to start with Reign and Rebellion.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Bart Driscoll. I'm the project lead of Reign and Rebellion. So this sprint, we still kind of just trucking along with our levels and everything, making our characters and refining on kind of just tweaking and fixing some of the things we've worked on or we've built since last semester. So for design, design didn't do too much besides working on a bit more of lore and a bit more of wireframing for this sprint. We focused more just on setting everything up for the programmers to work on once we get more of our assets done, and working on a bit more of the lore. Sadly, couldn't get the world map up on here. Wasn't working. Speaking of which, here is some of our UI elements that we've been able to get done. They're not in-game yet, but we're hoping to put them in very soon. Here is one of our characters, the Quera. Sort of a more steampunky kind of character who's going to have more of a corset, some light leather armor. He's kind of more of a quicker kind of character. Here is our Fituciero, who's more of a wizard character. Kind of more on the side of elegance. Kind of likes to show off, show their wealth, but also is a very powerful character. Moving on to maps, here is our steampunk kind of factory map, having sort of like a storeroom of supplies, materials, and manufactured goods. Here's our temple map. That's kind of going to be sort of underground interior, but kind of just dank in that sort of sense. And here's our cavern level that'll have different crystals jutting out from the ground into the walls, into the ceiling, and it's going to be somewhere between looking kind of man-made and lived in, mixed with kind of natural shaping of the walls and the crystal formations. And then I'll have Alex here take over on the build. So, like last sprint, we've been working on, again, tweaking with some of the abilities, but more so some of the more visuals of our game, whether that be the effects on the weapons, the abilities, or just some kind of nice things for the player, like being able to see your allies through walls. So as soon as this loads up, we'll be able to show that off to you guys. So one of the bigger things we did fix this sprint was tweaking our camera to give it kind of a better position and rotation so that you can see more of the player, though, so it's not kind of what's the right word for it? So it's not like forcing the character out of perspective, it's keeping them dead center. And then we did tweak the different effects on our swings, on our different abilities like the shield, having a glow, having emit particles. You want to show up the charge ability? So yeah, on his alternate click ability, it charges up an energy ball that forms on the end of the mace, and then he throws it at the enemy to do a lot of damage. You want to show off the seeing through walls? Okay. So yeah, one of the things, since this is a multiplayer game, we wanted to have it so you can see your allies through buildings and stuff. And right now we have it kind of a test right here with some test walls showing off what that will look like, sort of just a outline glow around your allies, just so you know where your team is at all times. Anything else we want to show off? Okay. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Donald Shepis. I'm the team lead for Calculord. And so a lot of what we've been working on this sprint is just continuing on the things that need to get done to push us from that prototype stage that we were in at the end of last semester into a full production phase that we want to be at the end of this semester. Part of that has been continuing in our UI development, figuring out the layout, figuring out how we lay our effects. On the left side you can see some examples with background effects that we're going to be trying to layer in behind all of our active elements in the foreground of the screen. That way there's a bit more of a difference between the active elements that you can interact with and the far backgrounds that we still want the players to be able to see and have change as they go through different screens to kind of give them a sense of travel as they go through the application. And so we've got a bunch of different layouts that we're working with. This is something that we're spending a lot of time on because you spend so much time looking just at our UI. We need to make sure that it is engaging, that it frames the content in a way that's easily understood, and at the same time it's not distracting to the kids. It's not going to be anything that gives them a negative performance hit because they're focusing too much on the background and the effects and things like that. And so we've been going through a lot of different UI iterations, and that's just continuing forward and forward until we nail down onto something that we like, and then extrapolate that out to all of our screens to make sure that the flow works well across all of that. Another big thing of the element of the project is the progress bar at the top. This is something that the kids are always going to be seeing. It's always going to be changing, and they're always going to be referencing it. And we always want them to have that sense of progress. And so we're trying to take our general assumptions about progress bars. I mean, you see here that we've got, it's a bar that goes across. And we're trying to figure out what we can do with form, function, and color to make it different while still having a lot of comprehension. We want them to be able to look at the progress bar and see all of the different elements that they're getting to make up their total progress. We're also beginning development on the early stages for the town. So this is where the UI screens are going to be shuffling through when they're outside of the quest map. So if you go to the blacksmith because you've gone to the item shop, then it's going to pan over, and in the background elements you're going to see the blacksmith, and then you'll have the UI where you can actually purchase and equip items and things like that on the foreground. So we're beginning with concepting with that, figuring out how we want all the buildings to look, what overall aesthetic style we want for that. And also, because a lot of our artists work with creating simple 3D mock-ups and then painting over that, that's what Chandler does. He's gone through, made a simple layout, and now we're trying to figure out which angle is going to be the most interesting to kind of have as the primary landing page. And then also, when you're going to the quest map and you have all the backgrounds that show where you are when you're starting in the town, we want to make sure that you have a shot that's representative of the entire thing. We also have some progress on our mining minigame. This is a division minigame where you basically are taking chunks off of larger stones, and that will break down to a certain point. So that way, as you're dropping it into the box, for instance, this is 8 and 1. So I have to click on it 8 times, it'll break apart, and then the box underneath will say 8. And this is in our kind of early stages for this minigame. We're having to figure out a lot of the assumptions and the ways we store the minigame, the way we have the student access it, and how that interacts with our backend to provide the appropriate rewards to the player. So that's pretty early in progress. And then we've also been continuing forward with our updated avatar. So the female teen base is in and finalized. Now we're doing some tech tests, seeing how the animations apply to the rig work in Unity. If there's any monkeying around we need to do with that. Seeing how many we can, trying to figure out what our load is for rendering that character, which is going to help us figure out our level of detail settings. And also mucking around with the customization and making sure that when you have the different combinations of skin tone and hair, that everything is going to look right. So there's been a lot of testing around with that to make sure it's a stable system. And then we're also making progress on the male teen base. This is a test with the unmodified version of the armor. So this armor is the 3rd grade armor that we had from from the end of last semester. We're just throwing those on to see how they look, and also we're using that as a baseline for how much change we need to make per armor set to fit the male base and the female base. And we're trying to get that and build our armor in such a way that there's minimal work there. And then because of the way we have our production environment set up, we're not merging things in until they are completely done. So I have a couple of builds. It's a little wonky, but it's just that's the way our production flow works. Oh, there we go. Oh, I do not want to. So this is, which one is this? This is the inventory. So this is, oh goodness. The computer's not liking the build. This is a simple test for the mixing and matching of the updated inventory system and the new way we're handling our UI. I mainly have this as an example so you can see how we're handling our UI. So as you go through, you navigate to different sections, and then we go to the character. We're doing a couple of things. First off, because you're going to have a lot of items, we want to make sure that navigating and finding those items is very easy. So we've got a search functionality at the top, we've got a drop down so you can select different categories and then you can clear it. And then you're able to not put the inventory pieces in where they don't go. I think this one goes on the torso, yep. And with that, we're kind of running into with the new way that we're presenting this information to the player and the new way the layouts are working, and with the updated canvases that we're using for the UI, it's a little bit of reinventing the wheel we've already created, just making sure everything works and syncs up with the new UI system. As far as our logbook's concerned, we're working a lot with the data validation and setting player flags for the achievements, titles, things like that. So, with that, we've recently purchased a pretty decent graphs pack off the Unity Asset Store, so that way now we'll be able to go in and we're messing around with how we validate or how we present the information to the player, because this is also how we're going to be presenting it to the teacher. And so you're able to go through and see the right and wrong, the progress made in particular grades, subject progression. With the achievements, I don't have a debug button for it, but you can unlock the achievements. They've got the flag set, so that way that'll actually work like it's supposed to. You'll get a little achievement toast, and then it'll come in here and show you that you've unlocked it. And we're also have our hidden achievements set up, and right now all the last touches we're doing with that is just figuring out how we want the organization to look. So that way when we have, if we have 200 achievements over the entire application, we want to make sure that it's easy to be navigated. And then as well as our titles. So now you can unlock titles, the reward given from achievements, and then you can set the titles. Because we haven't gone through and reset up the avatar page, that doesn't populate anywhere. But when you look at the back end, everything's thrown on correctly. It saves, it sends it to the server. There's no problems there. So we're not ending up with, you equip the title on this computer and then, 5 minutes later you went to this computer and the title's not popped up because it hasn't sent it to the server. So that's all working. And then we also have the teacher console. Its functionality and flow is mapped out. We're getting some feedback on that from a couple of educators. I can't talk and type in at the same time. Oh, and I have to do the, well, actually, this is a good example. So we're also worrying about the validation. We don't want a student to be able to log into the teacher console. So this is a student test account, and then it throws up an error. So I'm going to go into the offline mode, just so that way it thinks I'm a teacher. And then we've got the ability to create classes here, so I can create a class. And then I can create it. And then now the class is in this list, and I can open it up. And now we've got some students. We've got basically flags are set on each student. So the ones in red are performing under the class average. The ones in green are performing over the class average. And then we can go into a student, and then we'll have, when we hook up our new graphs pack, we'll be able to have all the stats be pulled and presented in this screen. And then you'll also be able to view the log of what activity they've completed. And then you can also go to the quizzes. You can set quizzes to be active, so that way they're available to students. And then you can go into the creation. You can create new quizzes, and then you can create it as an inactive quiz and then send it up to be active, and then you can do the same thing with sending them down to be inactive. You can open up the quiz. You can see which students are currently active in the quiz, which students have the quiz available, and then you can assign it. So that way it will show up in the list of quizzes they have. And then, of course, you can remove the students from quiz. You can go from here directly and open up their stats, and then as well as just deactivate the quiz, now close everybody out of it and throw it in the inactive list. And that's where our teacher console is currently living. You also have the ability to archive classes and archive lists, because at no point can we ever delete any of this data. We just need to make sure that this is always there. If for whatever reason, at a later point in time, the data that we're using in our application that the teacher is using needs to be referenced for, a regulatory reason or whatever reason. But so we also have the system to store those elements on the server, so that way they exist in perpetuity even if you've archived the class. And that about wraps up for what we've gotten through for this milestone. We're working on a lot of the work is going into making sure that the teacher console and student console are talking to each other correctly. That's a major hurdle for us, and it's one of the most important things that's going to happen as far as the project's concerned in these early stages. But we'll be continuing forward and have a lot more to show you in a couple of weeks. Thank you.
Hello everybody, my name is Alex. I am the project lead for Operation Red Rhino, and this is our Sprint 3 build review. So our Sprint 3 goals, not our Sprint 2 goals, were to make the Saboteur and Grenadier roles, get the health and healing mechanic in and working, 2 more nodes, and then the node vote screen. So this is an asset that we got from Stanley. He started texturing this, and this actually got in our base node that I'll be talking about in a couple slides. The health system, Charles got this working real quick before our whole programming team went over onto the node vote system. So basically the way that it works, you'll see down in the corner here, it's a little hard to see it, but there's actually 3 different colors on the bar. There's green, yellow, and red. Yellow is what indicates your max healable amount. As you lose health, that yellow will actually go down. So the more you get shot, you won't be able to just heal right back up to 100%. You'll eventually cap out, and that'll run out the more damage you take. This is our Saboteur node that Dom's been working on. So this is in the white boxing stage. He just got done with this one, so this one's fully playable. We're going to be playtesting this today. The base node, which is our final node on the map that we're making, this one got done. This one had to have a different game mode built for it, more of a conquest style, domination type style map that affected the respawns. So we got that in, and that's working, and that'll also be play testable today. And then our node vote screen. So this is the programmer art right now, but this is the basic. This has the basic functionality of our vote system. So after a node has gotten the win condition, the game will kick all the players out into this. The winning team will each get a vote, and then from there, whichever node has the most amount of votes, that is the map that it'll kick out into. And that is where I'll go to the build. So come in, choose the rifleman. Let me get a class set up here real quick. Also put a med kit on. So we'll spawn in. Let me turn this down so I'm not blowing everybody's ears out. Sorry about that. All right. One of the other things that we got in is we got grenade particles and smoke particles in for our frags and smokes. So if we throw the frag grenade, that's got that particle to it, and then our smoke grenades have a longer delay on the fuse, but they pop a smoke, and that's all affected by the light and everything like that. So it looks pretty cool on some of the maps where the sun's coming through the trees. All right, so I'll come over here, and this map actually has our dodgeball respawn system on, our kill to respawn. So hopefully we can show that off here. I got my teammate running around right here, and then the enemies up on the hill here. So let me just let one of them know that they can kill me. All right. So I'm dead right now. When my teammate just got a kill there, that allowed me to respawn. So had he not gotten a kill, I would have just been sitting at that death screen waiting. Now hopefully they kill each other and end the game. Or they're just going to look at each other. So we'll do this, end the game, and then we are going to vote on the movement node. Well, as long as we get on the same page here. Right now, it doesn't cut off when all players have voted. It's just based on the timer. That's one of the things that we're going to be working on over this weekend. It's just kind of polishing this feature and getting this feature fully fledged. Get some art in there so that it doesn't look so busted, and get this looking real nice. So once the timer runs out, it will click into our movement node, which is the bridge node that we had showed off in previous builds. So it'll come in, and then we play this one. This one has a totally different game mode than the previous one, and then upon completing this, again, the winning team would vote on which node that they're going to move to next. All right, so there he is. All right. Looking forward, we're going to be cleaning up that node vote system, just getting better UI art on the screen there, and cleaning up. Right now it takes into account everybody's vote, not just the winning team, and stuff like that. Just some small intricacies that we have to iron out. We want to get I don't know why it's cutting off there on the edge. We want to get final art on the nodes. So now that the nodes are fully white boxed out, we're going to start getting static meshes in there to replace the BSP, and getting textures on everything so that it doesn't look white boxed. We're going to be playtesting a lot now that we have all of our classes built. We have all the nodes. We have the node vote system. We'll be able to playtest, and we'll be able to figure out what needs tweaking from there. And that's pretty much what the design team is going to be doing from here on out. Is just playtesting and tweaking and making sure everything is good and polished and ready to go. And that's the last thing there, is just weapon and role balance, and making sure that those abilities and those weapons, one class doesn't end up way too overpowered and one class ends up unused. We want to make sure that that's all good for the end of this semester, so we have a fully playable build. And that's it for Red Rhino this sprint.
Hello, I'm Roger Shulligan. I am team lead for Morpheus, and there we go, sweet. This sprint we focused on trying to finalize some of our mechanics in our levels. Our overall goal for the semester is to finalize these levels, so we're just slowly working through each element. First up, we have the light beams. This is a, wow, it's really cut off, isn't it? Good job, Rhino. So yeah, this was designed by Jonathan Weiner. This is a light color mixing theory puzzle. So when you mix red with blue, it will produce magenta. So it's based on the light colors. You can snap to these obelisks and rotate them, and then when the two beams meet, they will produce that color. And you can see right above the door there is a magenta switch. You have to target those to that switch, and it will open. And those on the left here, those are the little lenses that you can snap into the obelisks to switch it from white to that color. Another area that we were working on is the transitional zone for the desert. So this is the zone that you travel through to get to the main island. This sprint we focused on the magnetic orbs. And so over there you can see there's this tablet thing with the lines and the slots. Those will manipulate the ones in the sky, and we will actually be showing this off in the build, so it will make more sense there. And we're also discussing creating an introductory puzzle to this because it kind of throws a lot at you at once. But we got the mechanics all straightened out, so we're going to start ripping it apart and making multiple puzzles. With our main island, this comes after the transitional zone. Our online student, Ashley Bangs, she's been conceptualizing the temple. She has some more pictures of like layouts and the puzzles that will be involved in this zone. This next sprint, she will be actually whiteboxing this out. Great thing about our Unity is we have a custom tool to export our scenes to OBJs. So the way our pipeline works is we take these white boxes, we export them to an OBJ, and then an artist will clean them up, which you will see right here actually. So those two images on the right are the white box. We exported this, and over here you can see we started producing the real model. So, and this is in the Glacier Gorge area. So this is where you will find the skeleton. He'll be buried in that crypt, and you have to capture him. Also in Glacier Gorge, we have some of the exterior locations being worked on. This is like right outside of the crypt. There's a lot of gravestones, and you'll be able to platform through that to get up to the symbol. So yeah, that's our presentation. Now for the build review, or for the build. So first up is that desert transitional zone I was talking about. There's some audio going on. So you're kind of met with this obstacle right away. Previously, you guys saw that we have these wind flowers that will project you up into the air. So if we ride this up, we will find one of these, and the bridge will repair itself. With that, we can get across, and we can get to the puzzle that we saw in the presentation. You can snap these into the slots, and it will activate that line, which will activate the two orbs out there. And up on this pedestal here, you can manipulate the push mechanics of those orbs, and you can see over here you have an indicator that will line up with that. So this is very basic. We want to expand it so we can have multiple pathways. So you can have this thing branch out to different sections and really get crazy with it. Once we get it to the end, it will snap into place and activate the island, which will allow you to get there. So right here, you'll see our new camera stuff that we're still working on. It will snap to that position. It will allow it to snap into place and then activate. There's a timer, and then it will snap back, and that activates the main island. From here, we'll make it so that you can get up to those spinning pieces. That's what we have so far on the transitional. Here's that light theory color puzzle that I was showing off. If you snap these in, it will change the color of the laser. Over here we have a blue one. And then you can snap onto the back of these, rotate them to the target, and once they mix, it will open. And you can see if you take it off, it shuts, so you have to keep those on. Next up is our crystal zone. This is almost complete. There is one area over here that we have to finalize. There's been a lot of polish. In the center here we have our gravity crystals. With the skeleton we can shoot these, turn them off, shoot them to turn back on, and you can basically ride these islands. So if you jump on this, you will snap to it. There's no sliding off of it, which was a problem that we were facing. And then you can basically solve each zone. There's 3 zones here. If I come over here, you can see we have a lot of gravity crystals. We have these 2 torches that we can actually light on fire with the fire crystal here. So, oops, no. It's kind of a timed thing. So if I light that up, we can, or die. If we use that, it will light the torch over there, which I don't know if that actually happened. I'm also bad at platforming, so. Then you can use that to melt the ice, and you can get further on that section. Over here is the bridge crystal one, so you can see those 3 bridge crystals. You saw the functionality for that. They'll basically connect bridges so you can get across. And then over there is our vertical crystal section. You can see that one's moving up and down. If you take that silver crystal out and you put it into the other slots, those ones will also move. We're also thinking about some achievements for this area. So if you used just 1 crystal to get across there, you'll get a special achievement. But you could technically grab all the vertical crystals and easily beat that. So that's our Glacier Gorge crystal section. So looking forward, we're going to keep on fleshing out mechanics and puzzles. Those are just 3 areas that you saw. We have like 5 more that we're working on behind the scenes. Not quite ready to show off, but they're in progress, and I'm pretty excited to see where they go. Thank you. This is our build review for Morpheus.
Good morning, I'm the creator for Call Center Simulator. We've had another great sprint over the course of the last 3 weeks, and I'd like to show you what we've been working on. We're going to start with designers. So one of the things that we've been trying to push for is having great content that we can present. There are a number of companies that we'd like to talk to about partnerships, and we want to make sure that what we can show them is really good. And so we've put together a prototype space that we're still iterating on, just where we can get some assets in. We're looking to get a lot of this textured this weekend, actually. Beyond that, it's been all documentation for designers, document after document after document. I wrote this GDD with the help of Josh, the other lead designer, in like February of this year when I was making just a little prototype for a game I didn't think would get made. So there are little things in the GDD that we just hadn't documented. So we've started working on that. We're pretty far along with documentation. The second version of the GDD should be done in the next week or 2. Beyond that, we have started concepting game modes for our sandbox level. One of the things that's really exciting about using Spatial OS is that we can create a persistent space, essentially what could be an MMO space, that doesn't turn off, where we can have constant interaction between players in virtual reality. And so one of the things that we've been trying to iterate on is, what are players going to do? How do we gamify it? What interesting ways can we make that content kind of one of the most important features of the game? So we've been working on that. We've got some great ideas. We're hoping to get some of those implemented in the next sprint or 2. Again, in terms of documentation, this is a small sampling of what we've been working on, but just to give you some idea, this is not wanting to size correctly. Just to kind of show that we're working on it. In terms of art, we started looking at our character models, getting a sense for what the style is going to be. Initially, we were looking at something a little bit more realistic, but because it is essentially a shooter in a call center, we don't want to go too close to real, or we're going to start getting pushback that it's a mass shooting simulator. So we're going a little more cartoony. I think the models, the concept art looks really good. We've got a really great character artist that's working on our models, so that'll be exciting to show in the next maybe 2 sprints. In terms of office assets, we have some pretty good stuff. We got a printer that's fully interactable, which is pretty cool. We've got an expo marker. We're still determining how we're going to use that in the environment. Everything is interactive, so we may have writing, we may not. We're still figuring that out. The phone logo is something we're actually using for our UI. We're trying to show players where they're going to move. We want to have some kind of reticle that just gives the player feedback on where they're pointing and where they're going to move to. And so we're going to use our phone that's kind of become our logo. So yeah. Beyond that, we started texturing our darts to go along with our gun. I think they look really good. We've got a soda can now. We had a soda machine we showed last week, like a vending machine, so you'll be able to press a button, get a soda, shake it up, throw it at your friend, and have it explode. Or open it and drink it, whatever. We've got drawers that are separate objects. They work. A pen, same deal. Again, everything is interactive. Programmers have had a hell of a time with Spatial OS. So this technology was essentially purchased, partnered with by Google not too long ago, and so the company is restructured and they're putting out update after update after update trying to get VR implemented. As we are one of the few teams working on VR content right now that's looking to release, we kind of need these updates. So it hasn't been too challenging in terms of time, but we have had to update the project twice, which has taken a few nights. Beyond that, we have a working firing script for our Nerf guns. We're now working on cocking and loading the guns. We've got interactivity in the environment, so I'm not sure whether we'll be able to see it in the build today, but we can pick up and set down objects, throw them, that kind of thing. We have voice integration now through the headsets. All of the headsets have microphones on them, so that's really exciting just from like an emoting and communicative perspective. We've made progress on our movement system. We have hit a little snag, but we're confident we can get that dealt with in the next sprint. We're very close. Our IK system that we showed in the first sprint, which is the moving arms and moving hands and moving head, the dance video, is coming along nicely. We had it integrated in the build and we took it back out because it wasn't looking as good as we wanted it to, but that's coming along. And then we've had some interesting issues with spawning interactive assets within the environment. So let me talk about that. We've actually developed, our lead programmer, Ryan McDonald, developed a Unity extension for the use of Spatial OS that allows designers to set up generated scripts, basically custom scripts, with a few button clicks. And that saves a lot of time for our programmers, makes it a lot easier for designers to see their work right away. And so that's really exciting, and we're hoping to show Spatial OS that and see if they're interested. So let's go to the build. As you guys have seen before, we have to stream in because we don't have a headset in here. So let's take a look. We have a spectator view right now that we are still trying to determine if we're going to incorporate it into our website. We can create spectator content that just runs on our website. So we're considering doing that for our prototype level, but as you can see, our character models aren't in, but we've got a little Nerf gun fight going right now. Apparently a pretty intense Nerf gun fight, judging from the number of darts. Players are using their environment to kind of duck behind cover. Again, that's one of the kind of core values of our game, is that you're not teleporting out of the way of Nerf darts or anything like that. We really want people ducking behind cover and hiding under their desks and that kind of thing. So we have some of that content that looks really good. Let's see. And we'll stop there. So that's what we've had for the sprint. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to showing you what we've got in a few weeks.
We just lost Kyrie for a couple minutes. Is he going to be back? Yeah, he'll be back. Okay. So while we wait for Kyrie, I just want to mention, leads, that you need to come prepared to the leads meeting today. We're looking for those top 3 priorities for the next build review. This is your major push. Your team should be almost at full velocity at this point, and so you're going to get as much as possible out of your team this next sprint. So that's why we're hosting the Game Jam this sprint, to get you ramped up and ready to go for this next 3 weeks. Any questions about what you need to accomplish for? Yeah, you guys are pretty dialed in at this point. All right.
I just want to say, I think everything's looking awesome.
Yes,
really
I agree.
I'll be proud.
I'm very excited about what we see.
But yeah, this will probably be the last like super concentrated sprint, because the final one will, as people start to, finals come in, go or whatever, it's going to be not as easy. Plus, you're going to want to start like really packaging it up nicely, that final sprint, so that you have a good, solid build by the end of everything.
those of you who are planning on taking advantage of some of the marketing that Professor Ben is lining up for week 14, and I would highly encourage everybody to do that, make sure that you're also feeding your social media. What I'd like to also get from each of the leads is just a short paragraph of what your game is all about so that we can start pushing that out. Kyrie, come on up. And I've got some images, the photographs that I've taken today, but any photographs that you want to send me of your team working, I'm going to try to make the rounds today to get a few more photographs. We're going to really start pushing social media at this point to get as many professionals out here on week 14 to see your products. So young entrepreneurs, please take advantage of those opportunities and send me what you have. At least a paragraph and a photograph today with your links.
Okay. Where is that? Alright. My name is Kyrie. I am the lead for World of Marts, and this is our review. So we've been working on getting this character complete, Torquay Ragged. We've made a lot of good progress with her. We hope to have her completed soon, and then we're going to start on texturing so we can implement her into the game and start on her animations and her abilities as well. This is one of our animations that we were completed, or about completed. Let's see. So we have collision into our animation, so it actually hits the characters now. We have the little collision box in there, so it tracks everything correctly. So right now, all we have to do is work on making sure that all of our animations go smoothly and making sure, like, as you can see, the weapon is still a little wonky. So we're gonna have to be working on that. But other than that, the collision for our combat is in there, so they actually hit the character and take damage, as well as vice versa. It's the same thing for our mob spawns. We actually have that implemented. It took a long time to get that implemented. We ran into a lot of trouble getting that working, but now we actually have it so at random times during the day to night cycle, a boss as well as little mini bosses will spawn. So as long as that boss is still there, mini bosses or mini minions would just keep on spawning until you kill that main boss. So we have it so the boss actually does damage, the minions do damage, so on and so forth. They track you throughout the entire level, so no matter where you run, unless another player gets close to them, they'll always be after you. And yeah, we have it so that we have the ragdoll effect in there, and as you can see, as soon as the boss was killed, the minion disappeared as well. So all that is implemented into the game, and we have that. And this is one of our levels that we have just completed, the throne room level. We hope to have that implemented as well along with our day to night cycle. How that's going to work in the throne room is the lighting system. You will see through the lighting that the day to night cycle will change, and it will still spawn certain enemies due to the castle environment. So instead of little goblin people, you'll probably have like knights or something like that that spawn to attack you. And that is pretty much what we have so far. Looking forward, we hope to finish implementing Torquay Ragged, get her textured into the game, as well as completing an actual boss spawn. Right now that was a mixable asset that we're going to use, but I have a boss that we're also hoping to complete soon. Other than that, we're going to start working on our multiplayer, getting that integrated into the game as well. And then we're going to clean up the rest of our animations, get our swords in there working properly, get the collision and everything down for that, and we should be good for starting up polishing after that. And that is our presentation. Thank you.
All right. Let's give our online team members a round of applause just to let them know that we appreciate their input as well. All right. Thank you for joining us for our milestone review.